Welcome back. We're still keeping focus on what transpired yesterday and perhaps what is expected to be done. Haven't seen what we saw yesterday, in case you saw it and saw some of it in the news today. We've got Mr. Yusuf Ali, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joining us to weigh in on this matter as well. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, from what you've seen, I mean, there are different references, perspectives, some of the points of law. Give us your impression of what you've seen about this probe so far.
Well, I think that let me first of all commend the National Assembly for this oversight exercise. This is the way it should be with public institutions and oversight from the legislature. The oversight function of the legislature is actually to ensure that public funds are properly and judiciously used on government projects. But having said that, it's looking more and more like an expose that is very symptomatic of the problems we have with our public institutions in the country. I think that while one, of course, I'm hardly shocked about some of these disclosures anymore. One has been around for some time, and we've heard and we've seen a lot of things, the way Nigerians conduct affairs in public institutions. But it's very disheartening if all these facts turn out to be true. The funds that were set aside to better the lives of the ordinary person is just being frittered and squandered the way you are being told. I want to actually pray that it is not totally true. But from what is unfolding, it's like a saga whose end is not in sight.
And this be described as the law failing us.
It is we failing the law every time. Nigerians fail the law. We fail processes. We fail procedures. The problem is not about our law, is that we don't have people of character occupying very important positions in the government space or spaces. So it's not about our law, nothing with the laws. It is our willpower to be able to execute the law the way the laws are. So most of our problems is not about the laws or the rules. We have enough of laws and rules. The lack of character is what is missing in our climate.
Right. So given the provisions of the law, all the laws, you are saying essentially that we shouldn't have gotten to this point at all. And, well, then there is the NDDC Act, and of course someone has spoken to that earlier on. Now, this is where we are at this point. What provisions of the law do you think could have addressed this without necessarily coming this far?
For example, there is no surfeit of laws in our country, for example, on how to deal with public contracts. You have the Procurement Act. You have other rules and regulations that bind the way contracts should be done. There is nowhere in our law which says when you want to award the contract, you must take a percentage for yourself. So it's a failure of our public morals, failure of our character. That's it. It's at the root of all this. In fact, the totality of the problem we have with corruption, it has to do with us as a people, not with the laws. You have the procurement law, you have the laws of contract, you have everything in place. You have the criminal provisions in the laws, which criminalizes most of these conduct that public officials embark upon. But the impunity that comes into play is because the law, we have not been enforcing the law the way they ought to be enforced. And that is the human failure, human element.
But some of what we heard there suggests that there seems to be a problem that the law is not addressing. When they say, look, the contracts, I hope we can get him back. Well, when they speak about contracts, and if it gets beyond the threshold, maybe say, they say 250 million, and then they have to split it if it costs far much more than that, and you could have them replicated in numbers. So Isn't that a problem? Because contract splitting eventually comes up here.
Well, now I'm happy that you said that there are rules that guide that forbids splitting of contract. This is in the ICPC Act, is forbidden in the FCC Act, is forbidden in the Public Procurement Act, and other laws. In fact, we are going back to what I've said. The law says, don't do this. You go ahead and to do it. What follows is the enforcement of the law. Who enforces the law? We, Nigerians. Who breaches the law? Nigerians. So it comes back to the human element. Why is it that these things work in other places and they don't work here? The Public Procurement Act was not original to us. It was the World Bank and other multinational agencies that brought up the idea and had a draft, which many countries now adopted. So the question we should ask ourselves is, when these laws, other laws work in other places, when it comes to our own country, why is it that the laws are not working? It is we. It is the problem with us as a people. And I've said it elsewhere. Nigeria is the only country I know that corruption has tribe, has religion, has age grade. I, as a Muslim, for example, if I make an allegation of corruption against somebody who is not a Muslim, the first thinking of most people is, oh, it's because he's a Muslim, he's a Christian. We don't seem to look at the substance of allegations or issues. We look at who is behind it, rather than what is the substance of the allegation itself. If a Yoruba man or another tribe makes an allegation against another tribe, even when there is substance in it, in terms of corruption, we don't look at the substance. Oh, it's because he's a Yoruba man, that's why he's saying that against him. Or it's because he's an Igbo man, that's why he's saying that against him. And this is it has become a pastime with us in our country. So it is we must change our attitude. We must then ensure that only people of character. I'll give you an example. When we were having issues with INEC way back, and then there was Justice Uwe's Commission of Inquiry, which came out with certain prescriptions. And on the appointment of the INEC chairman, I could recall, the Uwe's panel said it should be done by the National Assembly or the NJC or something. And when I was asked, my reaction was simple. I said, come, the people who will be appointing either in the executive or the judiciary, are they not Nigerians? If they are Nigerians, the issue is not with the appointer. The problem is the character of the person that is appointed. And I said, if a man of character was appointed, then most of the problems we had with INEC would have gone. And when then, here came the former chairman of INEC, who proved most Nigerians, most cynics, wrong, that we can get things done properly and rightly if a person of character is there. I'll give you another example. JAMB had been in existence since 1977, had its first exam in 1978. Most people never knew that JAMB was a cash cow until we now have it was already there, who has opened our eyes. So it is the character of those who occupy these positions that is the problem with us, not the laws.
So
you can put the laws in the world.
If that were
the law is the problem.
If that were the case, why did you then say, as we read in some submissions ascribed to you, that we need an independent judicial inquiry into this probe?
No, because I thought the legislature should be freed with some of these. Look, they have identified the problem. Oh, there's a serious problem here. The judiciary, the National Assembly may not be properly equipped to dig deeper. A judicial commission of inquiry will do that. How many people from the areas where this NDDC operates will be able to come to Abuja? But if you have a judicial commission of inquiry that is located in that area, then people can come forward. The ordinary person whose life has not been impacted by the intervention of NDDC, then can come forth and tell the Commission of Inquiry what had gone wrong, what they think should be the solution. So that's what I was saying. So there's no contradiction in what I've said.
A number of other probes are going on. We might bring them up shortly. But let me ask you this on this same NDDC probe that we're talking about. Now, a number of people have also said, just as you heard Chamberlain said earlier, that, you know, this doesn't seem that it's going to go anywhere because it's an inquiry just asking questions. And this is not the first time we'll have this kind of probe of the NDDC. This is not the first time we'll talk about a forensic audit of the NDDC. And for years, we have had the Auditor General's report, which someone also referenced there at the floor of this probe yesterday. And which of course has some things to say about the NDDC, you know, the infractions or irregularities in that agency. Now, given all of that, how strong or how hopeful are you that this probe is going to achieve anything? And how strong, for instance, is the instrument called the Auditor General's report to deal with these cases in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. You see, the Auditor General's report is like any audit is supposed to highlight and bring out infractions against rules and laws that guide an organization. So once that is done, then the next step follows. Identification of the infractions by another body, and then looking at how you find solutions to the infractions. If individuals have committed crime along the line from the auditor's report, then how do you make the person accountable? I do agree that we have had quite a number of probes, commissions of inquiries in our country. And the question is, what happened to the former ones? But it also goes back to the point I made, the willpower, the political willpower to see to the end of all these infractions and problems that we've been having. I'll give you an example. In 2000, during the time of President Obasanjo, some cultists killed some students at Ife, University of Ife, OAU. And a commission of inquiry was set up. I was a member of that commission of inquiry. Mr. Rieku, I remember, was a member of the commission of inquiry. Late Justice Okoitam, former CJ of Cross Rivers, he was not CJ at that time, in 2000, was the chairman. The point I wanted to make was that when we started sitting, Professor Okonkwo, the renowned criminal law expert, was a member. The same thing with Mrs. Jadishola, Professor Mrs. Jadishola Akande of blessed memory, was a member. I remember that when we did our work to a certain level, we then decided that we should do an interim report to the president on our findings and our suggestions. And we did the interim report to President Obasanjo. And in fairness to him, within 2 weeks of the interim report, they started to implement some of the suggestions we made in the interim report on how to address the issue of cultism. Part of our report was what generated and gave birth to the innovation of having PPP hostel accommodations in the universities. Because we found that as more and more students were living off campuses, it was promoting cultism. And that the best way to go, like it used to be when we were in the universities, was to have most of the students live on the campuses. Because once you live on the campus, the university authorities will have access to the hostels to come and check what you are doing there. But if you live off campus, you can't go to some people's private places to go and be searching, like we can do on the hostels on the campuses. So what I'm trying to say is that within a few weeks of the interim report, we started seeing the implementation of part of the recommendations. And that's how it should be. So me, I've not lost hope that if you have the willpower to push, once you set up a commission of inquiry, you must see to the end. And I think that is the important thing.
Now, you also called for the amendment of the EFCC Act to allow for non-uniform persons to head the commission. Does that suggest that the law then is defective?
Well, you see, when you make a law, you are prospective. It is with the hope that the law will be faithfully implemented by those charged with that. But look, going forward, and law is never static. Going forward, we have now seen that the provisions of the EFCC Act, I think in section 2 or thereabout, which says that only people in uniform who are done uniform before or are still in uniform must be the chairman. We have seen that it's not yielding fruit. So we should be prospective. We should look forward. We should look at the future. There are other Nigerians who have never been in any of the paramilitary forces who are as clean as a whistle in terms of not being corrupt. And I've said it, and I keep on saying it. Honesty is not something you can acquire later in life. It's either you are honest from the beginning or you forget it. So we must look for the best of persons in our country, and there are many.
That suggests that the uniform people who have headed it have not been honest.
Well, I've not said that, but I've said the system is not working. It's apparent to all of us. The body was set up to fight the problem of money laundering and corruption. Anybody who lives in this country will know that we are not out of the wood at all on these issues. So why can't we move forward and then look at how we can look at the law and do something about it? There's no perfect law anywhere, I must let you know, and that's why there's provision for amendment. So talking about law being not perfect, no, you can't have a perfect law because it's human. But as you go on, you practice the law, you use the law for some time, you see defects, then you move, amend.
Oh, for instance, just one moment, you will know, for instance, that every chairman of the EFCC has been removed for one reason or another. In fact, many people say that, you know, Nuhu Ribadu, for instance, was a very efficient person. He was an honest man and all of that. Yet, you know, that happened to him and a series of others that have come and gone. So is it a problem of who heads it or the processes, you know, that they have to go through? Because some people would say it is not the problem with the headship, it is the problem of corruption. Very strong institution fighting back.
Let me say this to you. I'm sorry. You see, you have to look at performance indices on certain parameters. You can't just be talking about some of these things in absolute terms. How serious was the issue of corruption before EFCC came? How serious is the problem of corruption today? So we have to put these things in perspective. What has changed in the way we do our businesses, for example? So without providing data and statistics, we can't be talking in absolute terms. Look,
are you suggesting then that anyone who comes in now, are you suggesting that that person will be insulated, the person will not be movable, the person will be able to perform and not be removed?
Why not? Look, there is no permanent position anywhere in the world. No matter how well you perform, you must have a tenure. Otherwise, you are going to create a Frankenstein. So you must have a tenure. Even no matter how well you are doing, even you as a human being, that's why our laws always put time limit on how long you can be in a position. Because absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think the main problem with some of these security anti-corruption agencies is they have not been able to win themselves away from giving undue regard to their appointors, and which comes back to the issue of strong institutions. I've said it elsewhere. Nigeria has strong men, but our institutions are very, very weak.
Which,
people who occupy most of the positions in our country dance to the tune of those who appointed them, which shouldn't be. Nigeria should be the focus of every person who occupies any Nigerian position.
All right, then. That's a good place to let it go. We do thank you for your thoughts this morning, Mr. Yusuf Ali, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're back to take a look at your comments and what do you think? What have you said about all of these things? When we return, wait for it.